A couple of weeks' time, there's a big fight up at the Manchester Velodrome. 4,300 tickets that are nearly gone. There's a few special ringsides and one or two others available. I'm sure you can just Google and find out how to get them. It's a Ricky Hatton show. It's going to be screened on the other channel. It's a cracking build. There's fights all over it, but the main event is the WBA interim super bantamweight title between Munroe, who's already fought for the world title out in Japan against great odds and a bold performance, and Scott Quigg, who I think we've had on the show. He's a really nice kid. It's a proper fight. It's a domestic fight that's got a bit of gold dust sprinkled on it. It's a quality fight. Now, underneath that, there are maybe 8 or 9 fights. There might be more. In fact, the man who's putting the show on might be able to correct me and tell me exactly how many fights there are. It's a delight and a pleasure to welcome to the show Ricky Hatton. Good evening, Ricky.
Good evening, Steve.
How are you, son? Rick, just how many fights are on that bill on June 16th?
You know, off the top of my head, I think there's about 12, to be honest with you. There's 4 title fights and a load of talent now on the undercard. You know, the next champions coming through. We've just had a new Hatton Promotions fellow who we just signed, Australian heavyweight champion, Lucas Brown, who's is he going to be on that show, Rick? He's on the show as well. So I mean, there's there's heavyweight action. There's Richard Towers in action for the EU title. There's Lucas Brown, the Australian heavyweight champion. He has a record of 12 fights, 12 wins, 11 KOs. He's and needless to say, the top of the bill, you know, doesn't really need much selling. And along with Ryan Rhodes versus Sergey Rabchenko for the European title, plus former world title challenger Martin Murray. All round is probably the best promotion I've been associated in the 3 years since I started promoting, Steve.
Now, of course, which is obviously coming to an end. We won't talk about that just yet. Rick, what's the situation with this Rabchenko thing? Because when he was meant to fight Ryan Rhodes before, you said, because you were working with Rabchenko, I think, if I'm not mistaken, you said you wouldn't be in his corner at that point, but you are going to be in Rabchenko's corner here, or has that changed since then?
No, I am going to be in his corner. In fact, I've been working in Rabchenko for several fights now, but it was only up to maybe a couple of fights ago that I said I would actually train him. And then I trained him, I was training him and he flew over, and then the fight got matched with Ryan Rhodes, which obviously Ryan I promote as well.
Sure.
And obviously has been a dear friend, you know, has been a friend for a number of years. So it was a very awkward position, and I felt very uncomfortable of going in the ring against Ryan. You know, my first fight with Sergey, I didn't want to go to Sheffield and, you know, be in the corner with Sergey Rabchenko. And, you know, I didn't want people to think that I'd been brought in specially to train him in order to beat Ryan. That certainly wasn't the case. I mean, I said I would train Sergey, you know, a couple of fights before the Ryan Rhodes match was even made. But now it has been made. You know, when Ryan pulled out of the first fight, I should say, I sat down and spoke to Ryan and said, listen, I was uncomfortable, you know, about my first fight with Sergey being against yourself. I said, but at least now it's out in the open. Everybody knows, and it's an awkward position. But unfortunately, you know, if I promote both fighters, Steve, I would ideally, and I trained one of them, I would try and avoid them fighting each other. But unfortunately, it was number 1 and 2 in the title was vacant, number 1 and 2. So I think Sergey was 2, Ryan was number 1. So there was no way of avoiding it really, and it's a very uncomfortable situation for me. But as far as, you know, the thing is, I promote both boys, and whoever wins, whoever loses, I will be there for both. If Ryan wins, I'll try and secure him I'll bend over backwards to secure him another world title fight, and if he doesn't win, I'll rebuild him like I've done from day one. It's a very awkward position, but it is how it is.
You know, it's just one of those pitfalls as you're discovering month on, month in, month out that come with being a promoter and a trainer or a manager in this business. You know, you can have a fight made like that which looks terrific, and then suddenly you forget you've got to be in a corner. It might cause a bit of friction. You can put a show on like this, and then suddenly you find yourself short of TV coverage after it. It's the old promoting game, Rick. Is it still giving you as much fun as it was maybe a couple of years ago?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, obviously, I can't say whether when my dates falling through from,
sure,
from Sky was a bit to blow, because as any of probably my rival promoters will probably tell you, when you start the promotion, you need to throw your money at it. You need to invest in fighters to get TV days, and then obviously you invest in your fighters to get your fighters in a position where they can challenge for major and significant championships, and that's what I did. And then all of a sudden, just as I'd sort of like got the ball rolling and got my lads in a position to challenge for these titles, which some have already done so anyway.
Sure.
Then my dates fell through, so it was a bit of blow really. But I mean, things were in process, in order to try and get a replacement, and get my fighters, on another TV channel. And I think at the end of the day, I think. Regardless of my relationship with Sky, what I've had over the years, I'd like to think the stable speaks for itself. I've got some great fighters, great stable. I think I've got a stable, quality-wise, enough to go alongside my rival promoters, if I'm brutally honest. But obviously, we're just in the process of, getting it so that the fight fans can see, these talents that I do have on my stable, to see them on the box, if you like.
Yeah, now, final question about that show. It says June 16th, a few tickets still available. This kid, Adam Etches, does he really sell as many tickets as I keep hearing about, Rick?
I think he sells more tickets than me, to be honest.
No, no one done that, son.
He's a real joy to work with. He sells loads of tickets. So, what I admire about him is like, he goes out and sells them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's he goes out, he goes around the pubs, he goes around the bars, he goes around the market, he goes around the shopping centres, he goes around all the places, and he absolutely works his socks off in order to sell tickets. And to tell you what, the bigger ticket seller you are, the more fights you get, the more work you get, and there's some people that say, well, I've had fighters that say to me, well, my job is the fighting, it's not selling tickets. Well, it's not really. Your job is to sell tickets, especially in this financial climate. If you can shift tickets, and believe you me, this kid did, he'll get more work. And regardless of the tickets he sells, Steve, he's very exciting. He's a murderous puncher. He hits them, and unfortunately, and he's doing some really damage in that boxing ring, and he's exciting to watch. And but he lives and eats, sleeps, breathes the sport, goes out, does the work, and I wish I had a stable full of them, mates, to be honest.
That's what I've heard of. Now, Rick, before I let you go, Saturday night up in Nottingham, if you closed your eyes and you looked through little squinty eyes like that, I tell you what, it was a throwback to one or two nights we had at the MEN. You must have been pleased as punch watching Carl Froch beat Lucian Boutet, win that title. It must have taken you back to some of your proper glory nights.
It was really, I mean, to be honest with you, it's like the fans were always my proudest moment. And, if it wasn't, when Carly lost his last fight and he's having people say, well, how much has he got left? And, and all this talk, the best way that the crowd could have supported him was what they did. Nottingham were fantastic with him the other day. They just turned out in the droves and they thought, Carl's under a little bit of pressure. He's got to perform a little bit. A lot of people are saying he's past it. And the fans got right behind him, and boy, did he back it up. Unbeaten champion there. Not a lot of people were picking Carl to win it. He was the massive underdog, and he went out there and just destroyed him. And it's, these fights, when you have these biding time fights, are all well and good, but, obviously with Carl boxing at the level he's boxed for the last maybe 8 fights, it's standing him in good stead, really. He's just proved that in doing that and having all them tough fights, he was leagues apart from Boutet.
It was an absolute delight to watch, and I loved it. Listen, Rick, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Good luck with the show on the 16th, and hopefully we'll be seeing more of you soon. Ricky Hatton, thank you.
Cheers, Steve. All the best.
Ricky Hatton there. Now, it's sometimes we look back on Ricky's career and we sort of tend to forget things, and we look at the last couple of big fights, obviously the Mayweather and the Pacquiao. But one day, sit yourself down, get a good copy of the night he fought Costa Azul. I don't think there's been a proper documentary made about that sort of whole build-up, that whole week leading into it, and we all forget now that Ricky was the underdog then, and there was nearly 20,000 people there. It was, I tell you what, it was exceptional. It was one of the greatest nights of boxing I've ever had the pleasure to be at. I couldn't sleep for days. I really, really couldn't. Now,